Hey guys, the topic of free will has been on my mind a lot lately because the way free will works in my personal reality has been becoming more and more obvious, in that there is no free will, that basically every decision for everything, it's almost as though life is completely fated, unless you intervene at the mental level in the right way. It's really crazy to me how I've been seeing this everywhere. It's like every decision for every possible scenario that could present itself to you throughout the day, your choice is already made, and you don't even realize it, because in the experience of living, it seems all the time like we're presented with choices and we have a choice of which direction to go in, and we choose one, which factually is what happens. But that choice is predetermined by your mental state, by your self-concept, all of that. It's what you're able to do is it's already predetermined. It's the weirdest thing to observe, and as it's happening, it's interesting in a way, because I personally have found that over the years, I've berated myself for certain choices that I've made, feeling as though in the moment I could have chosen something else, or that there was some sort of ability to have affected a different outcome. And in observing this more closely, I realized that that wasn't the case, which is kind of nice, because it really in a way, in the right way, absolves you of all responsibility for everything that's happened at the point of choice, I guess, would be at the point of apparent choice. You can stop blaming yourself for all of the bad decisions that you've made, all of the bad choices that you've made that have led to bad outcomes for you and other people. You can stop blaming yourself for those choices in the moment. Where the responsibility lies is at the mental level, which is really the only place that you can change anything. And the only time that you can change anything there is right now. That's where all of the free will is, if there is any. If this entire thing is not fated and prescripted to begin with. I don't know that it is. I don't have an opinion on that. Although honestly, I don't even think that's a bad thing if it is the case. Another thing that's been on my mind lately is I guess because it's just sort of revealing itself to me more. It's making itself more readily apparent, is how beautifully woven together everything that's happening is. And if this is not some sort of scripted thing, and there is, the ability on our part as humans to have intentions that then, bloom into fruition, the way those things happen, the way those things come together to become manifest is so intricately choreographed with everything else that's happening. It's just mind-blowing. Like, at this point, it sounds so cheesy, but even if this whole thing is scripted and I don't have any choice and I'm just here, like, on the ride, that itself is an amazing thing. Just to even be here on the ride is an amazing thing. Including all of the shit, including all of the bad stuff. It's just amazing how so much is happening that you're not perceiving. I know this is true for the average person. So much is happening that I'm not perceiving. And I'm actively looking for it. I'm actively intending to see it. I'm interpreting everything through this lens and still missing so much. What's happening is just, I don't, you know, I don't know if there is, I don't know if anyone will ever be able to explain what God is. And it's so hard to separate the idea of God from the idea of God of religion, and to separate God from man, like God is not a man or doesn't have human qualities or whatever. The idea of something being everything, I don't think is something that's comprehensible to humans. But whatever that thing is that is everything, it is so intelligent and so all-seeing and so timeless that it's just awe-inspiring, really. So I made this video recently talking about the end of the month-long thing that I did in July, where my intention, my priority was just to stay in the highest possible creative state. So stay out of scarcity, stay out of lower moods and vibes and all that stuff, and just see what happened. And I'll link to that video if I remember. Sorry if I don't, it's just a few back from this one. I was talking in that video about how I started to microdose mushrooms, which I've stopped doing. I did another, I did a sort of a recreational dose, like a gram, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a super trippy experience or anything, but that was intense enough. That experience was intense enough that I haven't wanted to touch it really. So I think I did one more microdose since then. I definitely haven't wanted to do any large amount since then. And definitely I got some benefits from it. I definitely made a few weird videos. I definitely had some insights into stuff that was very interesting. But the biggest thing that came out of that for me was the realization, and I was slowly getting there. I mentioned this on other videos in the last few months, but I slowly came to realize that my dreams have been trying to communicate with me. That's all they're ever doing. I don't seem to have dreams that are just for the hell of it. It's like any dream that I have means something. I've been using ChatGPT to help me with this, but my dreams are so symbolic, and they're an attempt to wake me up. It's crazy how consistent this is, you know, and the symbols and the dreams that, you know, I don't put together, but then I have the AI interpret it or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, that's so obvious now. What, you know, it'll tell me what it was, what the symbolism means, and it makes perfect sense. It's like this perfect, and the dreams are just perfectly constructed, and there to, you know, I think the purpose for me anyway is it brings up emotion, unprocessed stuff, things that in the waking hours I'm not looking at, or that I'm rationalizing away or something. And then they come up in the dreams, these situations or these, whatever they are. And then I feel the emotion that I'm trying to put aside. And the events in the dream are perfectly constructed to have a message about this emotion. It's fucking crazy. This, honestly, I think that's the most mind-blowing thing that's come out of everything in the recent past, is how there's this layer of reality that is taking up a third of my life that has been there trying to help me, trying to communicate with me, you know, forever, I guess, my entire life. And I've missed most of it. When it's been a really big deal, when it's something that is close enough to the surface in my waking hours and I'm ignoring it, I'll have a dream that's has where the emotion is strong enough that I can't ignore it. I think I've talked about that on here before. Like if there is a life situation going on that is just not right, and I am just, during my waking hours, I am just not willing to deal with it. Like, you know, in the past it's been stuff like I'm in a relationship that's really bad for me, but you know, I can't face up to the fact that it needs to be over, that kind of thing. Then I'll have a dream that is so disturbing regarding that person. That's you know, been one that stood out. Those specifically like regarding romantic situations in the past. That's when I've had dreams like this, but they're happening all the time now. And I've been paying attention, and it's just, this is just another thing about this whole situation here that's blowing my mind, is how there's just constant communication going on. There's constant recalibrating happening, and things are constantly being set up to, you know, for you to navigate through to get where you want to go. So the whole point in making this video, and I guess this whole channel, I don't know, I hope somebody that's been following this, you know, is like, I guess I hate the idea of people thinking that this is just a mundane experience with nothing beyond it. I mean, it's definitely, it's either not, or I'm a master at creating this experience for myself. I don't know, but there's so much more going on here than, you know, the day-to-day worries and stuff that we have as humans. There's just so much going on here, and there's so much support for you. And I think the important thing to really understand is that all of the change, like all of the programming of the GPS, all that stuff is happening at the mental level. It's like Neville Goddard said, you know, your only free will is in choosing your intention, choosing who you want to be, how, you know, choosing the best version of yourself, and mentally becoming that. Because from that springs all your desires, it springs all of your behaviors, all of your actions, everything. And there's so much going on. There's so much activity going on in your behavior, and probably just your energy and your frequency. I don't, you know, we don't know enough about that really to talk about that, but I know enough personally, firsthand, that about how much this affects behavior, and about how much your behavior affects other people, just from having observed it and gone through major changes myself, and seen what effect that had on those around me, and what effect that had on my decisions, you know. That all comes from the mental state. That all comes from your, really, just your concept of yourself. That's really the, you know, you have your beliefs, but it's who you feel that you are. It's who you feel that you are that really starts to determine everything else. It's who you feel like you are, and your identity is just something totally made up. It's just a total construct of your mind, and can be changed. It can be changed, and it can be changed back. It's totally malleable. So, you know, I think a lot of time, you know, whether you're watching videos on this all day long, or whatever you're doing, I think that when you put the phone down, or you turn the computer off or whatever, and you're just back in your life, you know, we've been so steeped in the idea that there are choices in the moment, and that, you know, you're like, it's really easy to put this down and forget that it's all coming from the mental state, and the only change comes from this intention to be something else. It's so easy to get lost in thinking that you can just go back into the world, put zero effort into anything mental and just start affecting change somehow with your physical self through making a different choice. The different choice cannot be made from the same mental state. If in the moment you are able to somehow gather up your will and choose differently, if that choice is not accompanied by a mental shift, you won't be able to continue to do that thing. We've all experienced this. And I don't even know if what I just said is possible, because more and more I am coming to the point where I just don't think anything that you do throughout the day is determined by any kind of in the moment choice. Unless maybe you're completely present and completely, most people are not present. They're somewhere else. So what it really comes down to is, how do you do this? Like, how do you do this? How do you actually change something at the mental level? I've talked about it on this channel a lot. It's pretty much the whole channel, but lately I've been thinking about certain things that you could take on mentally that really override so much. One of those things being confidence, and the way that I interpret confidence, or the way confidence is translated into my life, is a sense of I can do it, just taking it on, and realizing that even if right now you're totally ineffectual and you don't feel like you can do it about almost anything, that you can just decide that that's who you're going to become. Make a strong decision that that's who you're going to become. And then start taking every opportunity to prove that to yourself, and repeating that to yourself all the time with real conviction. I mean, you just have to let go of the idea that you can't do it, or that you're too weak to, you just have to sort of take on and embody the quality of strength of mind, character, everything. Just take on that quality and just start embodying it, not necessarily repeating some mindless affirmation over and over again, although just kind of yelling that at yourself, I think, can be kind of empowering and energizing. But taking on a feeling like that, a characteristic or an embodiment like that, that's something that's always with you. Then it becomes a part of you, and it's always with you in every moment of making decisions, even when you're not here, even when the decisions are predetermined. The predetermined decision is going to be that you can do it in any given situation then. And you'll find that in the moment, even if you're feeling like you can't do it, then, it'll nag at you knowing that you can, and you won't be able to make that weak choice, whatever it is. I've experienced that so much over the last few years. Like, if I had to pick one thing that has changed about me, in sort of a energetic way, it would be that, because that was not always the case. I'm almost 44. When I was mid-20s, that was not the case. I mean, at some point in my late 20s, I just took that on. I was just like, I'm gonna be an ass kicker in life, and I just decided that, and it became true. That was not the case throughout my 20s. I was unmotivated, undisciplined, unsuccessful in many ways, and that was the biggest empowerment of my life. And that I could be in a million different mental states, I could have a million different conceptions of self, but with that intact, it makes everything possible right here, right now, all the time, because I know that I can do anything. There's no problem that comes up that I can't either come up with a solution for myself or let go and let something else come up with a solution for me 100% of the time. There's nothing that can happen that I can't rise above and get past because of that one specific mental thing. It's huge. And I think, people like that read Neville Goddard or whatever other, he's really like the big one here now, that I guess, in Esther Hicks. I think there can be a lot of confusion about how you even do that, but one thing that you can sort of do is create an energetic version of yourself that you envision being outside of you, like just outside of you. Just kind of like create a second version of you and decide what that version of you is gonna be. Like, what are the traits that I'm going to develop into? Just sort of create a version of yourself, a ghost version of yourself that's energetically connected to you in your mind. That is a near future version of yourself. And just, what does that look like? What does it have? What is the best version of you like? And just start to sort of empower that vision of yourself and start thinking, that's really me. That's the real me. That's, this current version that isn't the things I want. This is just something that is passing by. This is just an old, tired iteration of myself. This is what I'm stepping into. And you can even visualize yourself like stepping into that version of yourself that's just outside of you. But because it can be hard, I think, to think of yourself in a different way right here in the present moment, it can be hard to think of yourself as being someone who can do it when you factually in the world have not been that person. Just start envisioning yourself differently. And you don't have to see it through your first person vantage point. All these rules that have been put on manifestation and personal change, it's all total crap. There are so many ways to change into something else. And just imagining a different version of yourself and starting to empower it and feeling connected to it and feeling like it is you. You'll be presented with opportunities where you can begin to act like that person. You can begin to choose like that person. And in those moments, this mental change, creating this other version of yourself is a decision. It's like making a decision to become something else. That's where the new opportunity presents itself. You get throughout your day all of these opportunities, interactions with people, things that come up, situations that arise, where then you will start to see yourself able to make a different choice in the moment. And if you're still making the old choices, at some point, I think, you start getting sort of sucked into this different energetic feeling about yourself. And it's in those moments that sometimes you have to make the choice, I think. Sometimes you have to look at the situation and be present in the moment and just sort of become the new thing. Outside of that, this whole thing feels very scripted to me. And even if you look at it logically, it sort of is scripted. If everything that's happening, if you're not able to really do anything different, if everything that you're able to do is coming from who you are, how you see yourself, what your beliefs are, and all of that, then the life you're living really is just kind of already scripted. It's fated in a way. If you don't change, every single event that happens in your life is like your reaction to it is predictable. You know, maybe not predictable by you, but like to the all-seeing, all the choices that you make are the exact ones that would come from your current self-concept. You might not know, you might not be able to guess what that would be, but there's an illusion that you have any free will. So you're basically just on a ride all the time. But from your current mental state, if you don't like what's happening in your life, you're essentially fated to continue to experience it unless you start to do this mental stuff, this mental changing. Taking on an entirely different mentality in one way or always or whatever. That's the only thing that seems to bring up new situations, new reactions, all of that. So, yeah, that is what I wanted to say this morning. Why? I don't know. I didn't choose this. This came from my self-concept. This came from my mental state. So anyway, I hope that was valuable in some way to you, and have a great day.